All right, so for our competition today, Quinnipiac University versus the Baylor Bears. We have our acrobatics and tumbling is a USA gymnastics team competition consisting of 6 events. The first event is compulsories, which will consist of 4 heats, followed by the acro event, which is 3 heats, followed by the pyramid event consisting of 3 heats and concludes with halftime. The second half begins with the toss event, which has 3 heats, followed by the tumbling event consisting of 6 heats, and the final event is the team routine. A running score will be kept throughout the meet. We'll update you with those scores as soon as they're processed and put up on the Jumbotron. We'll announce them to you guys as we get them. Baylor University will execute first in all the heats of all event rounds as they are the away team. The first event that we have up today is the compulsory event, where every team attempts to execute predetermined required skills. These skills and all the skills within the meet have been predetermined starting difficulty values from which the officials deduct points, leaving teams with their actual score. As we're waiting for the judges to make sure that they're ready so we can get our competition started today, Quinnipiac was selected 4th this year in the preseason poll, right behind Baylor and Azusa Pacific.
So first up in the compulsory acro heat, we will have from Baylor University, Allie Steele, Lauren Sturm, Ashley Eckelberger, Morgan Seelam, Sierra Gray, Faith Spivey, Gigi Mendoza, Katie Horstman, and Meredith Aldis. And a very clean first round from the Baylor Bears. In this first heat, you're going to be looking for a few things. You're going to look for amplitude on the release elements. You're looking for a rise of the top. On the first element, the toe pitch to the shoulders, you want to see a lot of height, and then you want to look at continuity throughout the heat. You want to make sure everything looks like it's running, smoothly. You're going to look for balance checks with the flyers on the top, any movements of the arms or legs that aren't supposed to be there. And then you're going to look at the bottoms, and you're going to look at for any unnecessary steps by the bases.
And it's important to keep in mind in these compulsory events that both teams are starting at the same start value. So it comes down to who can execute the skill the best. It gives them a fair opportunity, I believe, at the beginning of the meet to really execute these skills properly. It's a nice transition into the competition, and it really gives a fair advantage as the first heat as we move in towards acro and tumbling and pyramids, which they have a lot more difficulty and a lot more complexity and different start values. So for the Quinnipiac Bobcats, for the compulsory acro, we have Melanie Mancini, Jenna Adams, Siobhan Robinson, Erin Redding, Carly Duvall, Megan Hamill, Cameron Diaz, Alexandria Barnes, and Grace Manthe. excellent job by the Quinnipiac Bobcats as well. Very, very similar technique structures in both teams. It's important because the body posture of these athletes, not just the flyers on the top, but also the bases on the bottom, the back spots. Everyone has to be in the right position. And if you look at the replay, a lot of amplitude on those back flips coming off of the shoulder stands. Everybody's transitioning smoothly. It's very seamless when these girls go from ground to extension, especially for some of the straddle sits and some of the press-ups to handstands. You're going to want to keep in mind and look for some of those body position issues. And each of them has its own deduction value. So far, starting off very clean for both teams. Very impressive.
And we'll just wait for the judges to tally up some scores for that first round. Next up will be the compulsory pyramid round. You'll have two groups doing the exact same pyramid. So you're going to look for synchronization on both sides and all those same things we looked for at the first round. Posture and unnecessary steps and solid flyers at the top. So for Baylor University, we have Mary Burtis, Meredith Aldis, Shayla Moore, Madison Cruz, Ashley Eckelberger, Morgan Seelam, Brianna Harris, Allie Steele, Kaylee Adams, Molly Gibbons, Katie Horseman, Gigi Mendoza, Lauren Sturm, Sierra Gray, and Tony Broniszewski. Another solid round by Baylor. You'll notice that the girls are counting through these rounds. It helps for the synchronization that the girls are able to be all on the same page throughout the round. So you'll hear them counting throughout all the rounds today.
Synchronization is huge in acrobatics and tumbling in the NCATA because you want to make sure that these skills that these girls are performing are executed at the exact moment. Synchronization issues of any cost will cost each team different amounts of deductions depending on the synchronization differences. Each team, as they perform, the scores will come out at the end of the compulsory events. So for the compulsory pyramid Quinnipiac Bobcats, we have Alyssa O'Connor, Jordan Sack, Brianna Gert, Alexandria Barnes, Megan Hamill, Cameron Diaz, Erin Redding, Abby Zeiser, Michelle DeFlippo, Samantha Gormley, Caitlin Kelly, Brinkley Weltley, Jenna Adams, Paige Meyer, and Grace Manthe. And a beautifully synchronized compulsory pyramid from the Quinnipiac Bobcats as well. These two teams are doing an excellent job with their body postures at the top. A lot of times people think that's the only thing that the judges are looking at. They're also looking at the bases though. On the playback, you'll notice those bases that are in these shoulder sits. Their feet aren't moving. They're staying nice and tight. They're squeezing their cores. The secondary bases are doing the exact same thing and all the way through to the top. Pointed toes, beautifully executed by the Bobcats as well. The next heat we're going to move into is the compulsory event for the compulsory toss. So two groups will synchronize a back salto aerial toss. Where the judges are going to be looking at amplitude. They're going to be looking at execution, all down to when the flyer, when the top in that basket is opening up for that tuck flip.
And for Baylor University, we have number 5, Shayla Moore, 21, Molly Gibbons, number 48, Sierra Gray, number 41, Hannah Shoemaker, number 27, Brianna Harris, number 24, Lexi Amhern, number 40, Gigi Mendoza, number 20, Lauren Sturm, number 2, Tony Broniszewski, number 45, Morgan Seelam, and counter, Kaylee Adams. Nice synchronized tosses by Baylor University. You'll notice when the flyers stand up on that toss grip and then the bases throw them up, you're looking for the flyer to wait till the very, very top of their throw and then to rotate and do the back salto.
And as a base, it's important that you explode all the way through, not from the bottom, but all the way through to the top, giving that top flyer the chance to execute at the top of the toss. So for the toss round for Quinnipiac University, we have Alyssa O'Connor, Samantha Gormley, Jenna Adams, Allie Williams, Erin Redding, Melanie Mancini, Cameron Diaz, Siobhan Robinson, Alexandria Barnes, Nicole Chamberlain, and Grace Manthe. Beautiful height on those tosses, those compulsory tosses for Quinnipiac. Excellent job by those girls. Bases are really exploding through their feet, through the floor. Their arms are extending all the way to the top. If you take a look at the replay here, really nice catches by the Bobcats at the end there. Feet and toes squeezed nice together by that flyer. No unnecessary steps by the bottoms.
Next heat for the compulsory event, the last heat, is going to be the compulsory tumbling round. We'll have 8 athletes that will compete the synchronized matchup. First up from Baylor, we will have Shayla Moore, Brianna Harris, McKenna Kottner, Ashley Eckelberger, Bailey Hollier, Jenna Fisher, Allie Steele, and Kaylee Adams. Great tumbling round by Baylor. There's a lot that goes into that round. There's 4 elements, if you will. There's 4 parts of that round. There's the back salto, the straddle back salto, the back handspring tuck, and then there's that running pass at the end. There's a lot for the judges to look at in that round. A lot of steps, body positions, different things to take into consideration before they give them that score then.
And this is where you really see the gymnastics aspect of acrobatics and tumbling come in, I feel. We have a lot of elements that are coming from cheerleading and competitive cheerleading, all-star cheerleading. We also have a lot of gymnastics elements being associated with the acrobatics and tumbling perspective. But this is gymnastics in a whole, sticking those landings, making sure there's no unnecessary steps. So as they're flipping through the air, making sure they open up at the right time, pick up their chest, and stick to the best of their ability. For the Quinnipiac Bobcats, we have Abby Zeiser, Alyssa O'Connor, number 14, Samantha Gormley, number 16, Megan Hamill, number 29, Brianna Gert, number 30, Jenna Adams, number 38, Cameron Diaz, and number 46, Siobhan Robinson. Beautiful timing by the Bobcats on those layouts and all the skills as well. Not a lot of extra movement on those skills like I was talking about before. No unnecessary steps. They're sticking those landings and those tumbling passes. The judges are really going to be looking for that when they're assessing the tumbling. They're also making sure that the legs are together and making sure that they are synchronized as well. So the scores are announced at the completion of the compulsory round event for each heat in the order that they performed. So we'll have the compulsory acro, the compulsory pyramid, the compulsory toss, and the compulsory tumbling. As those scores are announced and they come up, we will be sure to give them to you as we receive them. This year, the Bobcats are going to be led by 4 senior captains. We have Jenna Adams from New Jersey. We have Samantha Gormley from Jersey. We have Alyssa O'Connor from New York and Abby Zeiser from New Jersey. So a lot of these girls are coming from completely different backgrounds and coming from different states, different locations, and they're coming together as a team. And not a lot of time to do that, starting college and getting new classes and getting acclimated to different areas in dorm life, and all of those outside factors are huge. Same thing for Baylor. Any athlete going into college and adjusting to those things is incredible. And then to come in as a team and perform right after Christmas break is really exceptional. It's quite a challenge, and both teams are starting off very strong in these compulsory events. A lot of people in attendance here today. We have a really, really active crowd here, a lot of signs, a lot of parents, a lot of friends, a lot of roommates. It definitely does help. I remember competing, and the more people we had, the better it was. It was always exciting to perform for people, and that's what it's all about. It's showing people what we can do and how we can perform, and it's exceptional to see the amount of people here today. A lot of other sports teams here today supporting the acrobatics and tumbling team as well. The support system is incredible. Baylor looking happy, smiling, so they should. They look exceptional today.
Here are the scores for the compulsory round. For compulsory acro, Baylor scores a 9.30, Quinnipiac scores an 8.90. For compulsory pyramid, Baylor scores a 9.80, Quinnipiac scores a 10.0. For the compulsory toss, Baylor scores a 9.75, Quinnipiac scores a 9.80.
So we have a lot of excitement here from the crowd and from the athletes for the compulsory rounds. For the acro round, we have Baylor with a 9.30, Quinnipiac with an 8.90. For Baylor University for the compulsory pyramid, we have Baylor with a 9.80, Quinnipiac with a 10.0. For the compulsory toss, we have Baylor with a 9.75, Quinnipiac with a 9.8. For the compulsory tumbling, we have Baylor with a 9.15 and Quinnipiac with a 9.30. At the end of the compulsory event, we have a 38.0 and a 38.0 for both teams. Excellent job by both teams.
I have a feeling this is going to be an exciting meet today.
Absolutely. We have the event number 2, which is the acro event. So event 2 is the acro event. In this event, each team will perform 3 heats of acrobatic ascending and descending elements. First heat requires 5 elements, the second requires 6, and the third requires 7 elements. Please notice that depending on the skills, the teams may have different starting values, and we'll inform you of those.
And for Baylor Bears, starting for the 5-element heat 1, we have Tony Brondazewski, Shayla Moore, and Sierra Gray. Great first round by Baylor Bears. That was the 5-element heat. So you'll notice the girls will do 5 ascending, a combination of 5 ascending and descending elements. And there is a clock time on this round. There's 45 seconds for each heat, even though there is 5, 6, and 7 elements. So it puts a little pressure.
Yeah, excellent job by Baylor on a lot of these skills. Very difficult one-on-one athletes, holding, flipping, ascending, descending, like Tricia mentioned. Excellent body control by both the tops and the bases. It's extremely difficult, hand on hand, handstands and flipping release skills. So excellent job by Baylor. Their start value for that round was a 10.0 on that acro heat. So keep in mind that we're going to have to look at the start values. And based on the start values, the judges are going to take off deductions for all those things that we've been mentioning. So unnecessary feet movement, amplitude on skills. So for Quinnipiac University, for the 5-element acro round with a 10.0 start value, we have Carly Duvall, Megan Hamill, Alexandria Barnes, and Grace Manthe. And a beautiful 5-element by the Quinnipiac Bobcats today. If you notice, excellent body control through that handstand to the top, and the jump shift to that second base is extremely difficult. If you look at the replay right here, we have the descending backflip, stuck landing nice and tight, all smiles from those tops and from those bases, and so they should. Excellent body control down on the way. A lot of athletes consider that a descending skill. So if you look at cheerleading and all-star competitive cheerleading, a lot of times those descending skills, they're not valued. It's not important the way they execute the dismount of some things. Acrobatics and tumbling, it's all about the way you go up and the way you go down.
Yep.
It's very
Start
important.
to finish.
Oh, yeah.
Next heat for, we'll have Baylor coming out first. We'll have the 6-element heat. Ashley Eckelberger, Gigi Mendoza, Katie Horseman, Bailey Hollier, and this is going to have a start value of a 10.0. Great round by Baylor in the 6-element heat. I always think it's interesting to see this round because it's coming up with combinations of ascending and descending elements, and it's always fun to see what the coaches come up with. And they want to try to get that 10 start value, so it's interesting to see the teams always bring something different to the table in this round.
And it's interesting because a lot of these acro rounds and the pyramid rounds, you'll see a lot of the very same elements just executed differently. So in the 5-element heat, you saw the descending backflip from the shoulder stand. Now Baylor just executed a full twisting layout from that shoulder stand. So making it more difficult and adding in that difficulty value, making sure also you're paying attention to the clock and how much time you have for the clock versus how much you can do in those 45 seconds when you're the time you're allotted. For the Quinnipiac Bobcats, for the 6-element acro round, we have Abby Zeiser, Siobhan Robinson, and Erin Redding. And the start value on this acro round is going to be a 9.95. Beautiful job by the 3 Quinnipiac athletes. It's so impressive to see The push up by the bases and how controlled and sturdy they really are for that top flyer, giving them the opportunity to squeeze as tight as they can and pull up. Excellent job by those girls, squeezing all the way through through their core, through their shoulders, and up into that second flyer. If you look at the replay here, we have Abby Zeiser pressing up in a tuck position to that handstand, and then controlling herself all the way down nice and tight into that pike seated position. Excellent body control by Abby Zeiser. Wonderful job by both
These
teams.
girls make it look easy, but it's definitely not.
It's a lot of training, a lot of practice, and it's quite honestly, when you watch, terrifying to watch because you have these athletes who are doing handstands on handstands and hands, and it's impressive and completely mind-blowing to watch the amount of muscle and dedication that these athletes put into each and every skill, from the placement of their hands to the toe point on their toes to squeezing their core to squeezing their legs. It really is impressive to watch these athletes perform these elements.
For the 7-element heat for Baylor University, we have Sierra Gray, we have Faith Spivey, Lauren Sturm, and Allie Steele. Solid round by Baylor. And you'll notice in that round they actually had 2 different tops throughout that one round. It's interesting how they can utilize different athletes for different skills throughout the round.
Extremely impressive here with the toss to hands by that flyer, and then the push up to the extension to the one leg all the way through to the top. Oh, they cut it short, but that's okay. All the way through to the top and then transitioning into that back into that 2-leg stun. It's extreme body control by that top flyer to make sure she's as tight as she can be, transferring her weight from one leg to the other. So for the Quinnipiac Bobcats, with a start value of a 10.0, we have Melanie Mancini, Jenna Adams, Cameron Diaz, and Allie Williams. Beautiful job by the Quinnipiac Bobcats as well. We have our senior captain, Jenna Adams, in there, and just doing an excellent job of making sure she's all smiles for her athletes and making sure that her girls are as calm as possible out there. That's really very important for all athletes involved in these rounds and for the crowd as well. You'll see right here Melanie taking that full twist all the way up, sticking that landing nice and tight. Allie Williams coming in to assist with the landing. Beautiful job. You'll notice Allie Williams in the background counting 1, 2, 3. Each element that these athletes execute with the acro rounds has to be held for 3 seconds at a time, making sure that the position is not just hitting, but it's holding as well, showing that complete control of the skill. If they don't execute that, they will be there will be a penalty assessed to the acro round. So making sure that they hold that as for the appropriate amount of time and doing it within the 45 seconds range. And Quinnipiac University, with this acro event, their start value total is 0.05 less than Baylor. So the start value for Quinnipiac is going to be a 29.95. Baylor coming in with the acro event at a 30.0. So that's important to keep in mind. These start values have a huge impact on the outcomes of these meets, but also the harder the skill, as Trisha and I know, the harder the skill, the more room for error. Definitely something to consider when you're putting together these different acro rounds and elements. As we're waiting for
some scores.
Go ahead. You're fine.
Just waiting for some scores for those acro rounds. The next heat will go in, or the next event we'll go into is the pyramid event. Similar to the acro, there's going to be 3 rounds. In each round, there's certain requirements that the teams are given, and then they're given the freedom to kind of come up with whatever pyramids they want. You'll see 2.5 high pyramids, handstands, flips, twists, different things throughout. But the teams are given the freedom, again, as they are in the acro rounds, to kind of be creative and come up with different combinations for each round.
And as we move through these seasons with these, go ahead. So we have some heat rounds or element round scores. As we're waiting for those to come up on the board, we'll announce them to you. So for the acro round scores, we have Baylor University for the 5 element coming in with a 9.85. Quinnipiac coming in with a 9.9. For the 6 element, Baylor with a 9.8. We have Quinnipiac with a 9.8 as well. For the 7 element, we have Baylor University with a 9.9 and Quinnipiac with a 9.4. So for the acro round, we have Baylor University coming in with a 29.55, Quinnipiac coming in with a 29.10. So for the meet total so far, we have Quinnipiac with a 67.10 and Baylor with a 67.55. Very close so far. Event number 3 will be the pyramid round. We're starting with pyramid heat number 1.
For Baylor University, we have Morgan Sealam, Gigi Mendoza, Katie Horseman, Tony Broniszewski, Sierra Gray, and Kaylee Adams. Great first round by Baylor. You'll see a lot of stability, a lot of control in that round. Not a lot of movement, especially from bottom to top. Those girls on the bottom, they got to plant their feet. And the judges are going to be looking for any movement, any steps, any wiggling or unnecessary movement up at the top in that handstand.
So for pyramid, the pyramid event, each team will execute a required 2.5 high pyramid in each of the 3 heats. Again, the start values for each pyramid are comprised of calculating ascending and descending elements, so keep that in mind, just like the acro round. For the pyramid heat 1, we have number 11, Karen DeFlippo, number 34, Caitlin Kelly, number 38, Cameron Diaz, number 39, Nicole Chamberlain, number 30, Jenna Adams, number 53, Erin Redding, number 51, Brinkley Weltley. Beautiful, beautiful pyramid by the Quinnipiac Bobcats out there. If you'll notice, the Baylor Bears only had 6 athletes going out for that Heat 1, whereas we have a little bit more athletes coming out. Keep in mind that it's not about the amount of athletes, it's about the skills executed. So we're hitting that 2.5 high requirement with the press up handstand at the shoulder height, nice tight all the way through the top, and then the descending skill to that cradle, nice and tight. We have a little bit deviation from square on that catch for Quinnipiac, and it's just something that's small that can take off tenths of a point or hundredths of a point for these athletes. It's important to keep in mind the catches have to be square to the front. Not only do the athletes have to be tight as well.
In the second round for the pyramid heats, we have Morgan Sealam, Gigi Mendoza, Molly Gibbons, Lauren Sturm, Sierra Gray, Faith Spivey, Hannah Shoemaker, Jenna Fisher, Katie Horseman, and Tony Broniszewski. And this will be a 10 value, start value. Very impressive heat by Baylor. You'll notice those girls on the bottom of those pyramids were in a bridge position.
Coming from a base back spot position previously, if you look at the replay, those girls on the bottom in the back bend, having 2 athletes stand on top of their thighs, having that pike seated position and then the dismount. Such strength by these athletes. It's incredible to watch. As a flyer, how do you feel about going up on somebody's hands when someone's in a back bend, right? Excellent dedication to these skills. And
a lot of trust.
Yeah, a lot of trust and a lot
of
commitment.
Trust and a lot of strength on that bottom. Those bases don't get enough credit, I don't think, in my opinion.
Thank you so much. So for the second heat, for the pyramid round, starting at a 10.0 for the Bobcats, we have number 2, Abby Zeiser, number 30, Jenna Adams, number 29, Brianna Gert, number 32, Alexandria Barnes, number 53, Erin Redding, number 9, Melanie Mancini, number 16, Megan Hamill, 34, Caitlin Kelly, 14, Sam Gormley, and 46, Siobhan Robinson. And the exact same pyramid performed by the
Very pretty.
Quinnipiac
I love the
Bobcats.
body change variation and the seated straddle position at the top of that pyramid.
Yeah, that's very interesting, and I love how almost same exact pyramid, Baylor performing it to the side, hitting that pike position, making sure that the judges can see that clear execution of that pretty pike position. Now we have the straddle from the Bobcats in the replay. Obviously, you want to see the judges seeing that execution of the straddle sit, keeping their behinds up in the air in that seated position, but also keeping their legs low enough that they can still flip for that dismount is very, very important for these pyramids.
And those bottom bases in that last pyramid, it's very important for them to be solid for that dismount. They can't, let the little girls push them around. They got to stay solid for her to be able to do that front salto off the front of that pyramid.
Absolutely. In the pyramid rounds, the game clock, if you've noticed, is set to 30 seconds, which is a little bit shorter time. But the elements, it goes by ascending and descending skills and the type of skill that they have to have in the pyramid round versus the amount of elements, which was their acro round. So you have that representation of the clock constantly in your mind when you're out there on the mat. It's, sometimes you hope you forget about it, but it's definitely an element of suspense when you're out there performing these extremely dangerous skills. The amount of time and effort that these girls commit to making sure that these skills are executed right here today is incredible. The NCATA, I personally believe, prides itself on the safety of these athletes. If you notice, these skills are extremely challenging and difficult, and yet every athlete is trained so well and so specifically for those skills they have to perform that there's not an ounce of movement. There's no question of error, and if it is, it's a safety violation, and they will lose a lot of points. So even some of these teams coming in, they have to perform what they have, not what they would want to do.
Right. So for the third pyramid heat for Baylor, we have Sierra Gray, Ashley Eckelberger, Gigi Mendoza, Morgan Seelam, and Hannah Schumacher. And you just saw a variation of what Quinnipiac did. This time the girls landed in the cradle position as opposed to flipping right onto the ground. The girls, just depending on the ascending and descending, there's a set value that's given, and the coaches submit these rounds and what they're going to be doing before the meet. They're given their start value, and then the girls kind of just go with it.
And commenting again on the safety of this sport and of the athletes as a whole, we submit those scores so that the safety of each of the athletes is vital, so that the judges know what's supposed to be executed versus what maybe the girls might actually execute. So if a skill doesn't go, they will lose points, and that will be assessed in their score. For the Quinnipiac Bobcats Pyramid Round Heat 3, with a starting value of 9.9, we have number 2, Abby Zeiser, 30, Jenna Adams, 53, Erin Redding, 38, Cameron Diaz, and 48, Allie Williams. Beautiful job by the Bobcats. Again, we have that back bend with the center base on the thighs, and at the top executing that pike position, twisting all the way down to the ground.
So at the end of the pyramid round, we're going to wait for the scores to get tallied, and then we'll give them to you as we're giving them. The girls are going to go into a halftime right now. It's a 50-minute break. The girls are going to kind of get a chance to have a break. You'll notice Baylor's warming up on the sideline, kind of doing some skills on their side mats there. And then each team is given a 3-minute touch on the big mat to do any last-minute things they want to do before the second half of this meet today.
And the NCATA has given an opportunity for athletes to compete in a similar fashion to other sports such as football and basketball, in the sense that competitive cheerleading, you compete all year and you work towards either a final competition or a states where most teams are accepted, whereas in the NCATA, they're working towards the semifinals and the finals and having that disqualification into the final national championship round. So it's really given a more NCAA sport environment to gymnastics and to cheerleading, and I think it's absolutely great these girls have this opportunity to compete in that fashion. Each of the meets that they hold or that they attend, their scores go towards that final national championship and decides their placement as to who they're going to be competing against leading up to the semifinals.
It's exciting to see the sport growing and to see like the competition side of it, and not every team being able to make it to that national championship. So it's very important to do the best in each individual meet, and trying to get the best score you can get, home or away. That just leads up to your seeding for the national championship, and then that's going to determine who you're going against, and that's the ultimate goal at the end of the meet. But you're looking at every single meet, each round in each meet, and just trying to get the most points you can get for your team.
And it's important to keep in mind that it wasn't always this way. Coming in 2010, when the sport was brand new, we had 6 teams
Yes.
in the NCATA, and everybody went to the national championship and were given the opportunity. We didn't have the chance to have that competition and that score tabulation leading up to the national championship. So the sport is growing in popularity and in competition. And I think that contributes to the fact that there's a lot of gymnasts and a lot of competitive cheerleaders that don't know what to do with their sport after high school, after they graduate high school. The scholarship and the opportunity that the acrobatics and tumbling, the NCATA, provides for these young women is incredible. And I mean, we wouldn't have been able to, you know, to continue on with our careers if it wasn't for the Acrobatics and Tumbling Association. So very grateful as previous athletes, and I'm sure these current athletes are as well. The national championship this year is going to be held in Erie, Pennsylvania. Trish and I are both from. And it's going to be held at Gannon University in April. So these girls are starting their competitions right after Christmas break and going all the way through to April. But there really is no off season.
No.
We train all through the fall and all through the summer, staying in shape for that. So we're going to get some heat round scores as they come up. We'll read them to you once we have them.
In Heat 2, Baylor scores a 9.65. Quinnipiac scores a 9.15. In Heat 3, Baylor scores a 9.65. Quinnipiac scores a 9.85. The total for the event, Baylor scores a 29.15. Quinnipiac scores a 28.40.
So for the pyramid rounds, we have Heat 1, Baylor coming in at a 9.85, Quinnipiac coming in at a 9.4. For pyramid Heat 2, we have Baylor with a 9.65, Quinnipiac with a 9.15. For Baylor University Heat 3, we have 9.65, Quinnipiac with a 9.85. The final pyramid round coming in, Baylor with a 29.15 and Quinnipiac with a 28.4. That gives us our meet total right before the half. Quinnipiac at a 95.50 and Baylor at a 96.70. Not a lot of difference in these scores today.
Very close meet today.
Yep, so after the half, we're going to move into the tumbling, the toss, and the team routine rounds. So we'll see you guys after the half. And we're back with the second half of the Quinnipiac Bobcats versus the Baylor Bears today here in Hamden, Connecticut. We're going to start off the second half of our meet today with the fourth event, which is the toss event. Starting off our second half, each team is going to compete in 3 heats. There's going to be 2 single tosses and 1 synchronized toss in this event.
And for Baylor Bears, with a start of a 9.9, we have Hope Bravo, Tony Bronisevsky, Molly Gibbons, Gigi Mendoza, Katie Horseman, and Mary Burtis.
Really pretty toss by the Baylor Bears there. If you take a look at the replay here, the toss goes all the way to the top. She goes from that tuck position to the pretty layout position. A little bit of feet separation at the end there, deviation from square on the catch, but hopefully the beautifully ascending element of that toss will be enough to keep them in a close competition in this heat. For the Quinnipiac Bobcats, starting off the toss round for Heat 1, starting value of a 9.90. We're going to have in the toss round number 2, Abby Zeiser, number 29, Brianna Gert, number 34, Caitlin Kelly, number 53, Erin Redding, and number 36, Jenna Capristo.
And coming out of the halftime, I know when we were competing, it always felt like kind of a fresh start. You kind of erased everything that happened in the first half, and you just start fresh and do your last 3 event rounds. The girls are still trying to keep their energy up.
Start off the toss event for Quinnipiac with a starting
It's always a good chance to kind of get your feet back underneath you. Nice little break.
Brianna Gert, Kate Kelly, Erin Redding, and Jenna Cabrisco.
Beautiful back double basket toss by Abby Zeiser in this first toss round.
I would say form-wise, that toss was solid. I think maybe they couldn't went a little higher, maybe.
Yeah.
I think Baylor went a little higher, but I think that the top technique was solid on that Quinnipiac round.
Love this view from the top on the replay here. Yeah, if you notice right as she leaves that basket, I don't feel like she fully extended up to the top of that toss, meaning that she's kind of taking it right off of the basket's, the base's hands, not really fully extending up into that hollow body position, making sure that she gets the most height out of that basket as she can. But beautifully executed. Form, body position,
Feet
the
together,
catch,
legs.
wonderful.
Our next heat is the synchronized toss event.
Next toss round, it's going to be a synchronized heat. Shayla Moore, Sierra Gray, Lauren Sturm, Morgan Sellum, Kaylee Adams, Hope Bravo, Tony Brunasevsky, Molly Gibbons, Gigi Mendoza, Katie Horseman, and Mary Burtis.
Mendoza, Katie Horseman, and Mary Burtis.
Very impressive tosses by Baylor. That's not one of the common baskets that you see a lot of the teams doing. Very complicated, a lot of elements to get that all the way around and square back to where you started.
So the Baylor Bears are competing the Arabian Salto Tuck Open 540 for Heat 1 and for Heat 2. So synchronizing that Arabian and then that twisting element is very difficult. In Heat 3, they're actually going to add a pike open to that toss. So very impressive with the synchronization, making sure the flyers, not just the throw and the catch is on, but also that the flyers are twisting at the same amount of time and having the same amount of speed on their twists. For Quinnipiac University with a start value of a 9.90, we have Alyssa O'Connor, Sam Gormley, Jenna Adams, Allie Williams, Erin Redding, Melanie Mancini, Alexandria Barnes, Cameron Diaz, Siobhan Robinson, Brinkley Weltley, and Grace Manthe.
Beautiful baskets by Quinnipiac.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very, very
wonderful.
synchronized. Very good height.
So
Solid round.
Again, if you look at the starting values for these teams, for the Quinnipiac Bobcats, that Heat 2 is a 9.9, and Baylor's coming in with that 9.9 as well, but completely different basket tosses. Quinnipiac going with a very simple back double basket toss, very tight, very clean, very synchronized. Baylor going with what seems to appear as more difficult, yet the start value is exactly the same. So it comes down to how these girls are going to execute the catch and the twist and the synchronization of these basket tosses.
And it's interesting to see the direction the flyers are facing in these baskets. You'll notice some are facing sideways, forward, at an angle, all giving a different kind of angle for the judges, and maybe potentially hiding things from the judges.
Yeah.
So for Baylor, for the third heat, we have Ashley Eckelberger, Brianna Harris, Sierra Gray, Elise Manning, Hannah Shoemaker, Jenna Fisher.
What a beautiful
Beautiful
toss.
basket. Nice high catch there at the end.
And the height on that basket, unbelievable. Like we mentioned, that Arabian pike open 540. Excellent job on executing that pike position. If we take a look at the replay here, she takes it all the way to the top of the basket, pike position, a little bit legs crossed and a little bend in the legs. Might have some deductions there on those elements, but beautiful basket toss by the Bears. And again, Quinnipiac is starting this toss start value with a 10.0. They're going to come out and they're going to perform a kick back double basket toss.
And now for the Bobcats, with the starting value of 10.0.
So the starting value, like I said, of 10.0. Heat number 3, we have Melanie Mancini, Jenna Adams, Cameron Diaz, Allie Williams, Brinkley Weltley, and Erin Redding. Beautiful basket
Beautiful
toss by the
basket.
Bobcats. Wow. No knee bends, no leg
Legs
separation.
straight, pointed toes, big toss from the bottom. Great round by Quinnipiac.
Excellent job. If we look at this replay, she stands up nice and tight on the hands. The bases.
So important for the flyer to wait all the way that extra second to get the top height that they
You
need
even
for the-
see her head. She sets. She's looking at something over there, and she's setting, and she's pulling all the way through to the top until she sees her feet. She gives that nice kick motion, and she pulls nice and tight for that twisting. Very beautiful job by Melanie Mancini. As we wait for the officials to announce the toss heat scores, and we'll give you some running totals after the half. We're going to be moving into eventually the tumbling event for the Bobcats and for the Bears here. As we wait for those scores to be announced, last season the Bobcats advanced to the NCATA semifinals after a thrilling win against Alderson Broaddus. Saw the Bobcats shake off a halftime deficit to win 8 of the last 9 heats and the team event. Quinnipiac defeated Alderson Broaddus at that semifinal event with a 270.645 to a 264.755. So like Tricia was talking about earlier, the halftime really gives these athletes an opportunity to get in their heads and get in the mindset of there is still a chance to come back from maybe a setback in a acro round. Not a lot of setbacks today.
No,
Everybody's
these teams look
performing.
great.
Yeah, everybody's performing at a very high level of competition today. So no errors and issues so far. But the Bobcats are down at halftime. So let's see if they can come back with this toss round and pull it back before we move into the tumbling round.
We will now announce the toss event scores.
So we have some toss event scores coming in that we'll announce to you.
Quinnipiac scores a 9.650.
So for the toss round, for Heat 1, Baylor University scoring a 9.50, Quinnipiac scoring a 9.65. For the synchronized toss round, Baylor coming in at a 9.70, Quinnipiac coming in at a 9.75, and for the third round, we have Baylor coming in at a 9.90, Quinnipiac scoring a 9.95. So if you take a look at the totals for the toss round, we have Baylor with a 29.10, Quinnipiac with a 29.35. That brings our meet total to Quinnipiac University a 124.85, Baylor University a 125.80, closing that gap to about
chipping
a
away
point.
at that deficit there, and going against Baylor, historically a very, very strong tumbling team. It's very important to hang in there through this meet because Baylor has been known to be very solid in their tumbling rounds.
Yeah, we have the tumbling event here with 6 different heats per team. So the first 3 heats are team heats with synchronized duo, trio, and quad passes executed by each team. Following those heats, however, there's 3 individual solo tumbling passes.
And for the duo tumbling pass for Baylor University, we have Kaylee Adams and Lauren Sturm. Beautiful synchronized pass by those 2 athletes from Baylor. I believe that they had actually threw that pass something similar last year. So it's interesting to see girls from these teams that like through the years that can, you know, tumble with this. Like, it's nice to find girls that can tumble similar. It's very important in these synchronized rounds to have girls that have similar form.
Yeah, tumbling's such a peculiar event because you have tumblers of all different talents, all different strengths. Look at the synchronization on Baylor in that 1.5 coming out at the same exact time, finishing that round off full. We have a little short ending on number 20 right there, but still considered a stick. I think they're going to score very well with that pass. Start value is very high and executed very beautifully.
It did look like number 20. She did land a little bit low with her chest, so that's something you want to look for. You want to the athletes want to land, you know, straight up and down, no extra. They can have one controlled step that you might see some of the athletes do, but very important to stick with the chest up, face, you know, head and chin up when they land their last tumbling pass. They don't want to land with their knees bent close to the ground at all.
You notice Baylor starting off of the mat in the corner. We have Quinnipiac right now on the side with the two athletes waiting to tumble. The athletes are allowed to start off of the mat first and foremost. They are also allowed to start from wherever they are comfortable. So it's very interesting because it gives these athletes an opportunity with their strengths, even with the baskets, like we noticed them starting different directions. They're allowed to do that, and they're able to really show off their strengths for each team. For the duo pass for Quinnipiac, we are starting at the 10.0. We have number 9, Melanie Mancini, number 31, Cassidy Ocean. Beautiful job by the Bobcats. A lot of excitement from that team. And so they should. That's a beautifully executed pass.
Very clean. You're looking for their feet and knees to be together. You want height in the tumbling pass, and you want speed. You want continuity throughout the pass.
They hurdle nice and tight together with that round-off whip, Arabian, and moving into that round-off back handspring, 1.5 twisting layout. Now the athletes, if they are landing in a forward-facing position, are allowed one controlled step forward, and if they are in the backward-facing position on the landing of their passes, are allowed one single controlled backward step. So it's important to keep that in mind when we're looking at the endings. Sticking obviously is the objective here, but you are allowed a controlled step considering the amount of power and forward-moving motion we have for these athletes in these passes.
And for Baylor, with a 10.0 start value, we have Ashley Eckelberger, Brianna Harris, and Lauren Blackwell. A little bit of a synchronization issue, and you did see number 26 in the back. She did not finish her pass. I don't believe that's what she was supposed to be doing. The other two athletes did not do the same thing that she did, so they will receive a deduction for that.
So if you look at Baylor and you take a look at this replay here, moving into the round-off whip, a little timing issue on 26, Arabian, pretty good timing there, but then you notice the first two athletes ending in a 1.5, whereas Baylor's third tumbler ending in a single back tuck. So that is going to affect their start value dramatically. Like we mentioned, we submit these scores prior to the meet so we know what these athletes are performing, what they're expected to do. As an athlete, speaking from the mat, sometimes we know things are just off.
Yeah.
And if you feel like you can't go for it, you can't go for it.
Yeah, it's important to be safe in this sport. And as you get, develop in the sport, when, maybe you might have to pull up and do like the back tuck that she did perform. She just must have felt off that something maybe wasn't right in that round.
It looked like her Arabian, she kind of came out a little bent on the step out, and that will affect the power moving into it. You have an entire new pass after that step out. So if you don't step out at the right,
unfortunately, is not forgiving with
No.
if you land a little bit off, it can take all the speed out of your pass in just one little landing.
No, that's definitely going to affect the Baylor Bears score. But hopefully their start values are coming in high enough and they can execute the rest of those passes appropriately. But that does give Quinnipiac a little bit of a window here.
It does.
So hopefully they use that to their advantage and they can pull forward here. A lot of fan involvement here today. Love to see it. A lot of returning athletes, alumni and graduates, not just Trisha and myself, but we have a lot of previous acrobats at the meet today. It's very nice to see the support. We see them up on the Jumbotron there. Very nice to see them returning and supporting their Bobcats, and that's really what it's all about here. We're a family, and we appreciate that, and we want to encourage each other. Baylor coming all the way from Texas, obviously. Their home meets bring in quite a crowd as well. So we have for the Bobcats with a start value for the trio a 9.55. We have number 14, Sam Gormley, number 36, Jenna Capricio, and number 24, Chelsea Werner. Beautiful job by the Bobcats. What an interesting pass.
Very pretty pass. That's more of a gymnastics type pass, if you will.
Yeah, we have that layout step out at the end. I can't wait to see the replay. You have the round of handspring 1.5 step out, moving into that round off layout step out. And that step out skill has been gaining popularity on teams. You see a lot of teams
Very
doing
controlled.
that. It is a very controlled skill, absolutely. So you have that round off handspring, 1.5 step out, timing's beautiful. Little bit of a timing issue there in the back with the third
Beautiful
tumbler.
step out.
But the landing on that and the execution of that 1.5 was beautiful. No bend in the legs, no bent landing coming out of that 1.5 step out. So plenty of power for that round off layout step out.
Will be interesting to see how that scoring goes in that round.
Absolutely.
And for Baylor University in the quad pass with a 9.80 starting value, we have Mary Burtis, Tony Broniszewski, Shayla Moore, and Lexi Amhern.
So this
Solid tumbling pass by Baylor. But you will notice number 24, she did step off the mat. That will be a deduction.
Yeah.
It's hard when you're going that fast and doing that many skills to stay on the mat. You know, and these girls, it's hard to spot exactly where you're at. It's so important to try to start, you know, where you're able to do all the skills and land on the mat.
And you
But
got to
it's not
give yourself
easy.
enough room. That's the most difficult part, is knowing where these mats are, knowing that. You notice she just takes that second step right off of the mat. But there's synchronization.
Very solid, beautiful passes, though.
Wow. Excellent job by the Baylor Bears today and their tumbling. Their tumbling is so, both teams, so powerful. They're really exploding through that mat. Like Trisha mentioned before, we have that 2 inches of mat that these athletes are tumbling on. And they're tumbling, yes, underneath a basketball court. But there's not enough give coming from gymnastics and coming from all-star cheerleading with that spring floor. It's a completely different environment and atmosphere. So on top of all of the other challenges you face as a college student, learning to transfer your tumbling. We have Quinnipiac University with the quad coming in at a 9.40. We have number 2, Abby Zeiser, number 29, Brianna Gert, number 25, Marissa Bruno, number 46, Siobhan Robinson.
Clean pass by Quinnipiac. Timing looked good. I mean, we'll look at the replay here in a minute, but form looked pretty good.
Yeah, great job by the Bobcats there. So their start value on that quad pass is coming in 0.4 lower than the Baylor Bears. However, like we said, with the higher start value, you're going to get a higher risk of not having those skills go, or not having the skills performed, executed, synchronized, or as good as some of the quote-unquote easier passes. You'll notice those steps right there, they are still considered controlled, so I don't think they will lose any deductions on those steps that I'm aware of anyways. But they're doing a great job of controlling their tumbling and keeping their synchronization together.
And now we will go into the 3 solo tumbling rounds. For Baylor University, starting with the aerial tumbling pass with a target value of a 10, we have Bailey Hollier.
What a beautiful pass
Beautiful
by Baylor.
pass.
Again, like we mentioned, that little step off of the mat. But her coaches and
Other than
her,
that,
they don't seem too concerned about that because that was an
That was a beautiful
excellent pass. Excellent job by Baylor. If you look right here, we have that front handspring, front tuck step out. Very, very beautifully executed. And that is a gymnastics skill through and through. Then you have the 1.5 step out to the round off full. Just that tiny step off the mat. But again, so many elements going into that solo pass. It's exceptional to see these athletes be able to show their strengths and their differences with one another. So for the aerial pass, we have a start value of 9.55 for Quinnipiac University. We have number 36, Jenna Capristo. Beautiful pass by Jenna. Excellent job. Very creative. Very, very creative. I almost for a second thought it might have been an error, but she comes out and it's a front walkover instead of a round off, which is very unique and very talented. She has that round off handspring. Look at the squeeze on that feet. No feet separation. Front walkover, round off, layout, step out. So tight.
Clean pass.
Very beautiful by
Looks
Jenna.
like she's happy with that.
I would be too. That was a great job by those Bobcats. We're going to be moving into the 6-element solo pass. So the athlete, this is a little bit different than some of the other 2 solo passes. The athlete's only allowed a combination of 6 elements to maximize the start value. So putting kind of a restraint on what these athletes are capable or what they're able to do, and then using what they're capable of doing to execute the pass is going to be very vital. And I'm really impressed with both teams and their execution of these tumbling passes. I mean, just an excellent job.
Very good form from these girls. And it's interesting that they're, they have to pick their best athletes for these rounds. That, best form, best technique that they can do and just try to get every point that they can get.
Oh, yeah.
And from Baylor University, we have Kaylee Adams. Beautiful height and control on that tumbling pass.
The height on that Arabian and that 1.5, absolutely beautiful. All smiles from number 7 for the Bears. A very difficult pass here. We have the round off, whip, Arabian. Look at the height on that. Step out, round off handspring, 1.5.
Amazing control on that landing.
Oh, yeah. She knows exactly where she's at on the mat, looking for her coach. And the nice embracing hug because that was absolutely beautiful.
Couldn't ask for much more from her, I'd say.
No, not at all. And these athletes, I mean, I love the tumbling rounds because it gives you an opportunity to have some individuality. You're really strong at something and you can execute it and show them what you're really strong at. So a 10.0 start value for the Bobcats here. Number 31, Cassidy Osher. Beautiful job.
Very good tumbling pass.
And number 31, Cassidy, coming in as a freshman.
Very
with that
impressive to see
pass.
these freshman athletes coming in and stepping up. And this is probably, this is their first meet. So I'd be more than happy with that first pass.
Oh my
great.
gosh, yeah. The pressure and the amount of adrenaline running through your body. If you notice, she's squeezing so tight on these elements. She comes out of that step out. She's squeezed so tight on the legs. Legs are straight. Nice controlled landing. Pressure didn't seem to affect her one bit.
And we'll have one last tumbling round. It's the open tumbling round. Basically, it's just given the athlete has no restrictions on elements to maximize her start value. Baylor does have a 10.0 start value on this. And Quinnipiac has
coming in at a 9.95.
9.95. So pretty much maxing it out on both sides for this last pass. And you'll notice the athletes are warming up on the side, getting ready for that team routine coming up next.
Open solo pass. The athlete has no restrictions on elements to maximize her start value. First up with a start value of 10.0.
And with a 10.0 from Baylor University, we have Shayla Moore.
What a
Very nice
beautiful
pass.
pass.
One thing Baylor, I noticed, they have very, very good height and control in their tumbling passes.
They know exactly where they're at when they step out.
They have very, very good height off of this floor that doesn't really give you much, so you kind of have to make your own height, and it's very impressive to see these girls get so much power and so much control when they're going across the mat in these tumbling rounds.
So that is 3 consecutive skills without hands, so considered an aerial. And that's extremely difficult.
Yes.
That's a punch, a punch, a punch without any hands to give you any momentum. And that athlete did an excellent job executing that, number 5. Great job. And I love this round because these athletes are going out there by themselves, completely independently, and they're performing for their team and for their team members to show them that they're here for them and they're giving it their all. And yet all these athletes look so calm, so collected. They know what they got to do. They know what they should do. And hopefully all goes well during that pass. And for the most part, these tumblers have been spot on today. And this is going to be senior captain number 8, Alyssa O'Connor, with this open tumbling pass coming in at a 9.95. So only 0.05 behind that open pass that we just saw for the Bears. But again, it comes down to execution. So like I said, number 8, Alyssa O'Connor with a 9.95. Beautiful job by Alyssa. Excellent job. That was a lot of heart and soul in that pass right there. All smiles, and I would feel exactly the same. Teammates are very pleased, very happy with her pass right there.
Beautiful form, and coming from the gymnastics background, I mean, you can tell.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Alyssa O'Connor, previously a gymnast right there with that handspring step out, lay out, step out, lay out, step out, and beautiful ending right there. Just an absolute incredible job by these athletes.
These girls having fun out here on the sides of the mat, and I think that's important. I think that's a lot of the reason why a lot of these girls have so much love and, you know, love this sport and love being around it, is because it's just fun and the fans are here for you, and just putting your best out there, you know, either team. Just worrying about what you can do and what you can put on the mat.
And how could you not have a blast? I mean, geez, the crowd,
the environment, I mean,
so involved.
And from practicing, you know, day after day, and the lifting and everything, you know, it's just, it all pays off when you come out on the mat and you get to have your fans and your friends and family here supporting you.
Excellent environment today for the Quinnipiac opener for the acrobatics and tumbling team. They should be very excited, very happy coming out today with this.
So coming up, following these scores, we're going to have our final event of the day. It's going to be the team routine, which is a 2-minute and 30-second routine. The team routine combines all skills seen thus far in the meet, as each team will execute a 2.5-minute routine set to music. Each team has a different start value based on the skills they are attempting. So it'll be interesting to see. You know, I think this is a round a lot of the girls have fun with. It combines everything that you've done so far, and it's kind of just the last step. You just have fun. You already did everything today. You already warmed everything up. Just the final exclamation point on the meet. And anything can happen.
And the team routine is an excellent representation of what these athletes have worked for. Acrobatics and tumbling takes every single element, tumbling, baskets, pyramids, stunts, and they make it into one entire routine. So you take what you see today, some of the skills, some of the difficulty, and it gives them one final chance to show, set to music, 2 minutes and 30 seconds, what they can do. And I love the team routine. I always have, but these rounds that the acrobatics and tumbling has given athletes, it makes it so much more entertaining, and it makes it so much more comfortable as an athlete competing out there. Team routine, I mean, all-star cheerleading, I'd move into the team routine, that's all we had. And it was very nerve-wracking versus now, it's like the final hoorah here. So we're gonna get some scores here. I'll announce them in a second as they come up.
score. Baylor scores a 9.875. Quinnipiac scores a 9.275. Heat 5. Baylor scores a 9.975. Quinnipiac scores a 9.750. And in Heat 6, Baylor scores a 9.750. Quinnipiac scores a 9.70.
All right, guys, so we got some really close scores here. For tumbling, for the duo pass, Baylor with a 9.75, Quinnipiac with a 9.65. For the trio, Baylor with an 8.50, Quinnipiac with an 8.9. For the quad pass, Baylor with an 8.50, Quinnipiac with an 8.40. For the solo pass, we have Baylor with a 9.875, Quinnipiac with a 9.275. Baylor for the 6 element with a 9.975, Quinnipiac with a 9.750. Baylor on that open pass with a 9.750, Quinnipiac with a 9.70. So that brings our tumbling totals to Baylor 56.35, Quinnipiac with a 55.675. So moving into this team routine, we have Baylor with a 182.15 and Quinnipiac with a 180.525. So for Baylor University, we have a start value for the team routine of a 108.34.
And we'll see Baylor do their team routine first.
What an excellent
Solid
job by the
routine.
Baylor Bears on that team routine.
That's a lot to watch. It's
Yes.
a lot to look at, and the judges are looking at everything they looked at thus far in the meet, and it's fun for us to watch, but I mean, as a judge, they're looking at everything, and the same things are, the predetermined values are submitted, and it's a lot to kind of calculate, so it's going to be a little bit here. I think this part of the meet is kind of difficult as an athlete, as a home team. I mean, you saw the away team go first, and now you have to wait. Now you have to wait until it's your turn, and just worrying about yourself and staying in the moment and finishing off this meet as strong as you can.
So as we wait for the Baylor Bears, the Quinnipiac Bobcats to take the mat, the judges finish scoring the Baylor Bears and their team routine. Here we have the cheerleaders from the USA Wildcats. They're going to exhibition. for what is considered the final event, it would be a team routine. So in competitive cheerleading, there's just a team routine. And they're going to exhibition some of their skills here for us today. I love to see these teams come out in exhibition. It gives them an opportunity to get involved so early, and it really gives them some drive and some passion to continue on with the sport of cheerleading and gymnastics. So if you look at the Jumbotron, we have some replay of Baylor going on. Each section of this team routine is going to be scored individually, but if you look at the tumbling by Baylor in this team routine, just so powerful, coming out of those corners, explosive tumbling by these athletes.
Beautiful form. That's one thing Baylor has with their routine. It's a lot in their tumbling round. It's like you're watching left and right, and your head's going back and forth because these girls, I mean, they're tumbling and they're close. I mean, you know, it takes a lot. Everyone has to do their part in that tumbling section, but solid form and great tumbling from Baylor, which is every year. They're historically very great at tumbling.
And the team routine is going to be scored as a whole out of that 108.34 start value. However, each round that you guys saw on during this competition is going to be scored in the team routine as well. So it's totaling up to that 100-point start value, and however high they can get that start value. So more difficulty, again, higher the start value, but also how they execute.
All-Star cheerleaders.
So these are the USA Wildcat Mini All-Star Cheerleaders from Naugatuck, Connecticut.
Look at Cheryl.
And that was just the USA Wildcats Mini All-Star Cheerleaders. These girls are so young, and you know, that's when all-star cheerleading and gymnastics and competitive cheerleading begins. And it's important that these athletes are considered athletes, and they're given that opportunity to continue for as long as they want.
Quinnipiac on the sideline getting pumped up, getting ready for this final team routine. And this will be the first time that they're performing it this year for at a meet. So
yeah, very excited to see this team routine here. These girls have worked so hard, both Bobcats and Bears. And
it's
it
always a
gives
good
them the
feeling to
opportunity.
just get it out on the mat and get to do it in front of people. And
it's a great opportunity to kind of show them show the judges one last opportunity, and the team routine is just so imperative because there's so much going on and there's so much action occurring in this routine to stay focused on what you're doing and what your element and your job is. We always used to say, just do your job, because if you did your job and everybody did their job, everything would hit.
Yep.
And that's the goal here.
And it's always a nice time to be out with all of your teammates. I mean, in the previous rounds, you might have had 4 or 5 or, a certain amount of people. This is all the girls going out on the mat and just doing all of their skills and just leaving it all on the mat.
And here we have the Quinnipiac Bobcats with a start value of a 106.53, so close to that 108.34 of the Bears. Let's see how the Bobcats fare out today. And a great job by the Quinnipiac Bobcats for their first team routine of the year. Really good job.
Good job.
A lot going on in that routine, a lot of power, a lot of passion, and a lot of dedication to each and every skill that goes into that routine.
And we'll see on the replay, unfortunately, there was a fall in the pyramid. There will be deduction for that. And with the girls, with their team routine, they do have requirements in the routine. So depending on, the deductions and how that gets scored, that will affect their score. But overall, a clean routine, really strong and, solid. Different parts of the routine were solid, and there was a few things here and there, but for a first routine out there, it was very good effort by Quinnipiac.
Yeah, excellent job by the Bobcats there. Obviously, we do have that pyramid collapse like Tricia was talking about. There also was a tumbling touchdown in the front right-hand corner by one of the athletes. But those are the things, and those are the mistakes that we go back and we work on, and we work hard to fix. And these girls, I know, Marianne, constantly picking these girls up, making sure they're still pumped up. Here we have the replay. So we have
press
that
handstand, very beautiful, solid form by the Bobcats.
Standing tuck, handspring, full twisting layout by full team, which is beautiful. We had that basket error on Alyssa O'Connor in the center there on that catch. But tumbling, again, very powerful, very good technique on these athletes coming out of the corner with so much going on. You have the press straddle handstand pyramid, beautiful landing and execution. Synchronization on the passes coming out there, really nice by the Bobcats, great job. Beautiful full right there by Alyssa O'Connor. Then you do have that pyramid right there that collapses. But the other two, excellent execution. You have that shoulder stand
nice
to the
landing.
full twist. Beautiful landing, body position. A little bobble on that one man to the full twisting down to the floor. But overall, very strong performance by the Bobcats, especially for their first season out. You have that in the back right corner. Melanie doing that kick back double basket, beautifully executed right there in the last 5 seconds of the routine, getting those points for the basket tosses in there. They didn't show the basket tosses, but they had 4 back double baskets that were synchronized and executed beautifully. So again, if you look at each element and you look at each athlete and what they have to execute, it's worth a certain amount of points, and it all goes towards that ending score value. And if it's not executed properly, or like in the pyramid, it falls, they're not going to get the credit for it. So it's going to bring that final score down. But again, strong start for both teams all the way through this competition. Fierce, fierce competitors. And like with the Bobcats, or like with the Bears, it takes a while for these judges to kind of look at these scores and what was executed and what occurred. But again, I mean, the amount of effort that goes into it, from the athletes to the judges to the coaches. These meets are energized, and they're so exciting to watch.
I think overall this was a really solid meet on both sides of the floor. Baylor looks great. They're coming off this is their third meet now of the year. Quinnipiac's on their first, but overall both teams looking very solid early in the season. And it can only go up from here, and Quinnipiac has a few weekends in a row of having meets coming up, so they got to get back at it and keep working on these things and making little fixes and just going from there. It sounds like we might have some scores coming up here soon.
Yeah, they should be getting ready soon to announce some scores. We do have coming up the acrobatics and tumbling schedule for Sunday, February 18th. Obviously, we have, on February 24th, we have Alderson Broaddus University. Then we have March 3rd, King University, March 11th, Oregon, and March 13th. Azusa Pacific. So like Tricia mentioned, a lot of meets coming up here back-to-back for the Bobcats. Gives them a really, really good opportunity to come back. Personally, as an athlete, this, to me, would be an excellent start to a season for these Bobcats.
Oh, absolutely.
I would be very, very positive and have a really good outlook on the rest of the season if this is how some of our first meets started. Baylor coming out strong after 2 wins. But definitely making sure that they come through today at Quinnipiac. So we're going to have to see how the start values and the execution of the rest of the skills that they performed in the team routine fares out for the Bobcats here.
So going into this, these scores getting announced, Baylor did have about a 2-point lead going into this final event. So it'll be interesting to see how these team routines score and what the final scores ends up being. But the teams look great, and they just get back at it and head home, and then Quinnipiac goes back to the mat, and they just keep working on these skills. And it'll be interesting to see how these teams develop through the season. Different rounds change, and different athletes go in different rounds. These athletes also have the opportunity to qualify for individual event championships that happens when they go to nationals. So that's always fun too, because the girls are able to kind of win individual championships. And for tumbling, stunning, or tosses or pyramids, Quinnipiac actually had, I believe, 2 individual national championships last season. So even the individual rounds are, you're trying to get the best score, and each meet matters because you're trying to just kind of make it to that nationals.
Yeah, last season we had Kelsey Rule, Jenna Adams, Allie Tallman, Noelle Brazier, Jenna Capristo winning the open toss at the national championship. And then we also had the synchronized toss coming in with Alyssa O'Connor, Samantha Gormley, Siobhan Robinson, Alexandra Williams, Jordan Sack, Kelsey Rule, Jenna Adams, Allie Tallman, Noelle Brazier, Jenna Capristo winning their 2nd straight NCATA individual championship. So it's really important to keep in mind that these athletes, a lot of returning athletes coming back and holding up their titles and making sure that they're performing at the same level of intensity and fierceness each year. And so far, those athletes have done so very nicely. As we mentioned before, the NCATA, it's growing, and it's an incredible opportunity for these athletes. We have 6 teams in 2010 when Trisha and I started. Now we're up to 13 teams in 2015. So we continue to grow, and these athletes, I know they've added to that 13 to our current 2018, but it's an incredible opportunity for these athletes to come in, change some of their skills, and advance most of their skills to what the level of competition they have to perform at, like you guys saw today. And I think it's important to keep in mind that coming into the meet, each of the event rounds has a different start value, and then each total event round has a different start value. But if you look at Baylor University's total meet start value, they're at a 297.94. That's going off of difficulty of skills, not just in those individual rounds, but the team routine as well. Quinnipiac's coming in at a 294.63. Again, looking at those different event rounds and the start values and combining them, not much of a difference with these
teams are very close. And I think as the sport evolves and grows and more people are exposed to it, these teams are getting closer and closer every year. And, each matchup is getting, closer and closer. It's making the sport more fun and more competitive for the girls. When you're, in a deadlock meet and, between the different teams.
So we do have some team event scores coming up here.
Baylor scores a 100.780. Quinnipiac scores a 97.53. Which brings us to our meet totals. Baylor scores a 282.930. Quinnipiac scores a 278.055.
So for the team routine for Baylor University, they received a 100.78. Quinnipiac received a 97.53. That brings our meet total to a Baylor Bears with a 282.930. Quinnipiac coming up short today with a 278.055. But overall, excellent job by both of those teams. I think Quinnipiac started off strong as their first competition. Baylor Bears came out strong with their third, and honestly, excellent job to both teams. I'm so so excited to see what
Those
they
scores
accomplish.
were very, very high. I mean, for those that aren't familiar with this sport, I mean, these scores are some of the highest for the season so far from what I've seen. So that's important. That's a great start for Quinnipiac starting out, and for Baylor to, to continue to be strong throughout the year.
Yeah, so
But a great scores for both teams. As far as for their season and trying to get the best scores each meet. Quinnipiac's just got to keep their heads up and move on to the next meet.
yeah, excellent job by both teams. So thank you guys so much for joining us today. Good luck to both teams in the future, and we'll see you guys at the next meet.